Hi, I'm Mary Waltari of Battaglia and Waltari. I'm an estate planning attorney focusing on special needs trust and conservatorships. As the parent of a special needs child, you've probably heard that you need to have a special needs trust in place. But what does that mean? A special needs trust is generally set up for an individual with a disability by either their parents, sometimes their grandparents, sometimes a friend. The trust itself is a document that just governs how the funds in that trust are spent. A special needs trust is generally set up by the parents or grandparents of an individual with a disability and is generally intended to receive an inheritance when someone passes away. But it can also be the recipient of a life insurance policy or be named as the beneficiary of a retirement plan. Some terminology: the beneficiary is the person who receives funds from that trust, and the trustee is the person who manages those trust funds and makes distributions. So if it's set up during lifetime, it's usually the parent who sets it up, but they also name a successor trustee to take over for them when they either can't do it anymore or they pass away. The purpose of a special needs trust is twofold. First of all, it's to manage funds for an individual that can't manage it for themselves. So to make sure that the funds are wisely invested and wisely used, hopefully so they'll last over their lifetime. The second reason to have a special needs trust is to help preserve that individual's public benefits. When your child turns 18, they may qualify for benefits on their own based on their own earnings ability. Most typically, people receive supplemental security income called SSI and Medi-Cal for their health insurance. SSI and Medi-Cal have eligibility requirements. To qualify, an individual can't have more than $2,000 in assets and they have to have limited income. So if they have more than $2,000 in a bank account, they would not qualify and wouldn't receive the benefits. So if they received an inheritance or funds or gifts over $2,000, they would be disqualified and not able to receive the benefits. Funds that are put into a special needs trust do not count toward that individual's resource limit, so they can continue to keep qualified for their benefits. And if the distributions from the special needs trust are made carefully, then it won't count as income toward their income limitations. SSI is intended to pay for an individual's food and shelter, so a special needs trust is generally set up to pay for their supplemental needs. So what can a special needs trust pay for? Basically anything. It can pay for clothing, household items, computers, vacations, companion care, anything that that individual needs. A special needs trust can also set up a lifetime advocacy team to look out for your child. The trustee is the individual who manages the funds and tries to make those funds last over your child's lifetime and use them in their best interests. You can also set up something like a trust advisory committee, who is a group of trusted friends, relatives, people that might be connected to your child, that makes recommendations to the trustee or has the job to check in on them and make sure that they're getting all the services they need, that they're living a healthy, happy lifestyle. The job of the trustee is a really big job. Their job is to invest those funds wisely, to know the public benefits rules to make sure that they keep your child qualified for benefits, and hopefully to make those funds last over their entire lifetime. A lot of people choose a trustworthy friend or relative, but honestly, it's a big job, and most people hope they're never called on to fulfill that role. There are some options for that. Another option is a professional trustee, and that can be anything from a big bank or trust company down to a private professional fiduciary that's licensed with the state of California. They charge for their services, but they're often a very good choice because they're experienced, they're bonded, and they know what to do to make sure those distributions are made properly. Another option that many people choose is a pooled special needs trust. That's an agency that will act as the trustee for your child's special needs trust. Another thing that you might want to consider as part of your management team is a trust advisory committee. And this might be the individuals in your life that are connected to your child, that you think might take an interest in them over their lifetime and be interested in following up with them to make sure that they're happy and healthy, they're living in an appropriate place, they're getting the benefits they need, and will make recommendations to the trustee. So the person that's a little bit more in touch with them on a personal basis. So the special needs trust can be carefully drafted to make sure it meets the individual needs of your child. And because I'm an estate planning attorney, I have to remind you to also set up your own trust or will to make sure that any inheritance that you leave to your child pours into their special needs trust and keeps them qualified for these important benefits. If you have any questions about this, feel free to call me, or or you can also check our website for additional resources and benefits. So I highly recommend that you get started on your special needs trust and set up a lifetime of advocacy for your special needs child.